In December, former reality TV star and right-wing activist Josh Duggar was convicted of receiving and possessing images depicting the SA of children. Over 60 images, which the investigator called the worst of the worst. I did a deep dive into Josh's case and why I have such a strong opinion on it in another video, which I'll put a link to that in the description. Anyway, for sentencing purposes, the possession charge was dropped. So he was facing a maximum of 20 years and a $250,000 fine. Before the sentencing, the prosecution filed motions with the judge asking for the maximum sentence plus enhancements for engaging in a pattern of activity involving the SA of minors and his, quote, repeated acts of child M. In their filing, they call him an offender who has a history of SAing minors, and his past behavior provides an alarming window into the extent of his sexual interest in children. It concludes that Duggar has a deep-seated, pervasive, and violent interest in children and a willingness to act on that interest. It also notes that S offenders are more likely to reoffend than any other kind of violent offender, all of which is factually true. His family, of course, tried to beg the court for a lighter sentence, because remember, in their little fundamentalist cult, abusing women and children isn't really that big of a deal. It's not like it's a really evil, unforgivable sin like being gay or trans. Anyway, Michelle, Anna, and some others wrote letters to the judge about what a great husband, father, and worker he is. You know who else was a great husband, father, and worker? Dennis Rader, Israel Keys, Gary Ridgway, the list goes on. Anyway, in her letter, Michelle even claimed Josh had a, quote, tender heart. Yeah, so tender that he sought out images of toddlers being tortured. Real tender. Anna played the I rely on him for financial support card, as though that should make any kind of difference. I realize it's going to be hard for her with her lack of education and job skills. She's going to have to deal with it the same way every other spouse of every other convicted felon has to deal with it. Get a job. Because the party that she and her family have supported for decades have made sure that there is no safety net for her or any other parent struggling to raise their kids alone. I have to admit, when I saw news footage of Jim Bob, Anna, and the others leaving the courtroom today, I felt hopeful. They didn't look too happy, and Anna sounded like she might have been trying not to cry. Aw, I'm sure that's got to be painful for her. I mean, not as painful as it was for the children who were tortured in those images, but still. Anyway, his sentence ended up being 151 months, which is a little more than 12 and a half years. While I would have liked to have seen a longer sentence, I'm glad he's finally being held accountable. After decades of being excused and protected by people in high places, like the former governor who jumped to his defense, the Springdale Police Department who decided the statute of limitations was up, and the judge who tried to cover it all up, Josh finally crossed a line where all of his powerful friends couldn't help him. After a lifetime of being the golden child, then the lord and master of his own family, I don't think prison life is going to be too easy on him. I'm assuming he'll have to be put in segregation like most child S offenders are. In prison, chomos like him are the lowest of the low, and their lives are constantly in danger from other inmates. I don't agree with this, but I also kind of understand it. Even the lowest criminal has to feel morally superior to someone. And, well, everyone pretty much agrees that doing what Josh did or watched being done is the absolute worst thing you can do. So I'm not saying I wish for anything bad to happen to Josh in the clink, but I am saying I wouldn't be surprised if it did. Anyway, what are your thoughts about Josh's sentence? Let me know in the comments. Till next time, Darklings.